Welcome! Before we start this week's episode of Chess TV, we would like to highlight some of the accomplishments during the past week. Initially, we would like to congratulate 13 years old Alexandra Gurunchkina, who won the El Rodrenko Memorial, one of the qualifying tournaments for the Russian Women's Cup. We would also like to congratulate Butker Muhitkin, who is the new Turkish champion in rapid chess, and Oliver Barbosa and Richard Breton, who through their performances in Raya Nerzin Schach Invitational Masters and International Open Chess Championships has become grandmasters. Congratulations! In addition, I would like to take this opportunity to inform you about the 14th edition of Malmö Cup that will be played in the castle of Malmö in Poland between the 24th and 25th of September. In a dark age spirit, the opening ceremony will consist of a short night's game. Soon I and Alfred will continue our analysis of the Queen's Gambit. Then Antonio will present a new chess puzzle, Albert will present some news, followed by a very special chess history episode in which we will visit the castle of Skövde. But first out, the chess school. So, let us now continue with the analyzing of the Queen's Gambit.
The Queen's Gambit is introduced after d4, d5 and c4, and the Queen's Gambit accepted after d takes on c4.
In this position, White can choose between lots of different variations, but we will continue with analyzing what happens after White's e4. It might not be White's best move, but it is one of the first moves that comes to mind.
In last week's episode, we analyzed what would happen in this position after Black's knight to c6. So today we'll continue by analyzing what will happen after e5. As knight to c6, this move targets the white center and more precisely the white d4 pawn. And the plan is to disturb the white position before white manages to capture the c4 pawn and reach an equal material position, but then with a far better center.
White can choose to take the e5 pawn, but that is not recommended since it leads to Black getting a strong initiative after a queen exchange on d1 and knight to c6. White has a weak king and weak central pawn structure.
So instead of taking on e5, White should try a more stable move, namely knight to f3. This leads to an interesting fight where Black is a pawn up, but where White has a positional advantage, compensating for the material disadvantage. Black does in this position mainly choose between two variations, e takes on d4 and bishop to b4 check. Knight to f6 is an interesting option, threatening yet another pawn, but it never became especially popular since White simply continues to develop instead of trying to protect the pawn, leading to White getting an extreme positional advantage for the pawn after bishop takes on c4, knight takes on e4 and castle kingside. Black is simply too far behind in his development, so Black has to choose another move. If Black decides to play bishop to b4 check, White has to be careful not to cover the check with the wrong piece, because if White plays knight to d2, Black gets the advantage after c3, queen to a4 check, knight to c6, d5, c takes on d2, bishop takes on d2, bishop takes on d2 check, knight takes on d2, knight to e7, d takes on c6, and knight takes on c6. Black is a pawn up and White has no compensation for it. So instead of playing knight to d2, White should play bishop to d2. Now follows an exchange on d2 and Black captures on d4 with the pawn, followed by White taking on c4 with the bishop.
Black is a pawn up in this position, but White has a positional advantage because of the well-developed pieces, and White does in this position have two ways of continuing from here, either by trying to recapture the lost pawn or by using the development advantage to target the Black king.
Black should now strengthen his protection of the d4 pawn by playing knight to c6 and this is followed by castle kingside and queen to f6. Black plans on finishing his development by playing knight to e7 and then to castle kingside. Knight to f6 might seem more natural than queen to f6, but it allows white to get a small advantage after e5, knight to d5, queen to b3, knight to a5, queen to b5 check, c6, queen to c5, b6, and queen takes on d4.
White has a small advantage in this position, so black should not use this line or be careful not to make mistakes. We end this week's episode of the opening score here, but we will be back again next week, and then we will analyze black's move knight to f6. So see you then. Today's chess puzzle is taken from a game that was played in 1947 in Leningrad between Mark Taimanov and Grigory Goldberg. Between the years 1946 and 1956, Taimanov was one of the top 10 players in the world, and there are few players who can present the same impressive performances against 6 world champions as him. Something Taimanov always will be remembered for is, however, his 6-0 loss against Bobby Fischer in 1971 in the candidate match for the world title. After his loss to Fischer, the Soviet government was embarrassed and, as Taimanov later put it in 2002 interview, found it unthinkable that he could have lost the game so badly to an American without a political explanation. Soviet officials took away Taimanov's salary and no longer allowed him to travel overseas. The official reason given for punishing Taimanov was that he had brought a book by Alexander Solzhenitsyn into the country, but that explanation was secondary in nature. Well, history is history, but this week's chess puzzle is still as interesting as it was for over 60 years ago. So, you now have the chance to solve this one here. White wins in 3 moves. Good luck! What we need to do here is to exploit the interplay between the 3 pieces and thus not allow the black king to escape or get help from his own pieces. If we would choose to play rook to c1 here with a check, we'll let the king escape to b6, and with that our chances for a quick win disappears as well. We could of course try to use the cover check here, but it actually doesn't give us anything. The cover check will, however, be used here, only without the double check. Because what we'll play is in fact knight to b5 check. The bishop is now guarding b6 and the pawns are doing a great job guarding d7 and d6. This leaves the king with only 2 options, either to go to c8 or to c6. If the king goes to c6 and threatens our knight, we don't waste any time trying to guard it, but instead use it to check again, but this time on a7. The king can now only go back to c7, and then we checkmate on c1 with the rook thanks to the bishop. So let's go back to after our first move, knight to b5 check, and see what happens if the king goes to c8 instead. As you might have figured out here, there will actually not be any difference at all. We check with the knight at a7, the king must return to c7, and then we end the game with rook to c1, checkmate. Well, the maneuver with the knight was necessary to open up the bishop diagonal to b6 with a plan to limit the black king's escape chances. So if the knight hadn't been in the game at all, we would have checkmated black in just 1 move. So, I really hope you solved this puzzle, even though it was quite difficult this time. I may even choose a checkmate in 2 moves next week just to make up for this one. But we'll see what I decide. Let's make it a surprise.
The Magnificent Eight. It sounds almost like the sequel to the Fantastic Four. But what FIDE is aiming at in its press release is that the World Cup has now moved into quarterfinals. Of the 128 specifically qualified players that started in the World Cup, only 8 are left. Among them are the world's all-time strongest female player Judith Polgar from Hungary, Ukrainian Vasily Ivanchuk, and Czech David Navara. David Navara actually made headlines across the world's media when he offered a draw against Alexander Moishenko in the second game of the third match in a totally won position. The backstory to this very generous draw offer, to say the least, proved to be incredible sportsmanship on both players' side. It all started in the game's 35th move, when David Navara wanted to move his bishop. The problem was just that he accidentally touched the king, which was placed on the square next to the bishop while executing his move. Moishenko, who was sure the king had been touched first, instinctively called for judges to ensure that the touch move rule would apply, which would mean a fairly immediate loss for Navara. Moishenko then decided not to force Navara to play a move with his king, but instead let him play his decide move with his bishop. The game then went on to develop in Navara's favor, and some 50 moves later, it was clear that Navara would win at any time. That is when he offered his opponent a draw, which Moishenko accepted. The draw meant that their match would instead be decided by tiebreak. Natalia Kamarova, Ugra's governor, awarded both players with a special prize to acknowledge for their fair play, saying that in Ugra we encourage honor and generosity, both at the chessboard and in everyday life. Alexander Moishenko commented on the match by saying, "I lost not just to a very strong player, but also to a noble man. I think David's decision to offer me a draw is unique for the chess world. No one else would do it under such circumstances. I was quite shocked by his offer. I admire David's decision and I wish him the best of luck at the World Cup." ChessTV has had the great pleasure to interview David Navara a few years ago, and we can attest that he's a genuinely nice chess player. And from my own experience, I know that Moishenko was not exaggerating in his speech. Several years ago, when I was around 12 years old, I played in a club championship against a player 10 years my senior. The game proved to be decisive for the championship because we both would share first place with the same number of points, and the tiebreak was a result between tied players. Just under 20 moves into the game, my opponent took his queen and placed it right on the line of my bishop. He let it go and was just about to press the clock when he discovered his mistake. His hand flew quickly across the board, grabbed the queen and held it up to his chest. Applying a sad and pleading look, he kindly asked me if he could please take back his move. Being the gentleman I am, I of course allow him to make a different move. Some 20 moves later, when I blundered away my position and consequently resigned the game, my opponent was not quite as gracious. I even heard him tell his friends that he had beaten the crap out of some little kid. I guess there's some truth to the words of the great chess legend Richard Fenton. A man that will take back a move in chess will pick a pocket. Obviously, not everyone can have such high standards. Some believe that to be the absolutely best, you have sometimes to do anything to win. Walk over corpses, or cheat against women. In the 1994 Linares tournament, world champion Garry Kasparov did exactly that in a game against Judith Polgar. He moved his knight to a certain square, let it go and then changed his mind, picked it up again, moved it to another square. Kasparov won the game without offering a draw or any other compensation for his foul. No, noble players like Moishenko and Navara belong to a minority in chess, but it's great to see that they do exist and that the things are going well for them, because chess is, after all, a gentleman's game.
Välkomna till ett nytt schackhistoriskt reportage här i Mitt i Schack. Vi har ju tidigare berättat om besöket på Museum Gustavianum i Uppsala där vi tittade på det märkliga konstskåpet som skänktes av staden Augsburg till Gustav II Adolf 1632. Ja, där fanns ju ett tidstypiskt kombinerat schack- och brädspel. Och att några av de fina schackpjäserna är lite skadade numera, ja, det tror man beror på att drottning Kristina lekte med dem som liten. En person som är nära förknippad med den svenska storhetstiden på 1600-talet är Carl Gustaf Wrangel, som bland annat övertog befälet över de svenska trupperna i 30-åriga kriget 1646 och lät bygga det Wrangelska palatset på Riddarholmen i Stockholm. Och inte minst Skokloster som vi har bakom oss här och där vi befinner oss idag. Ja, vi har också spårat upp en koppling mellan Wrangel och schack och speciellt mellan hans roll i ett sjöslag och ett mycket speciellt schackspel. Men för att utreda den saken närmare så har vi även idag bestämt träff med en expert. Så låt oss först gå in i slottet för att se om vi hittar honom. Vi befinner oss nu inne i slottet och står i den gång eller omgång som det kallades på den tiden. Vi har tagit oss upp till korridoren där vi kan gå in i Wrangels eget förmak som det brukar kallas. Så låt oss gå in och se hur det ser ut.
Välkommen till Skoklosters slott. Jag heter Bengt Kylsberg och jag är intendent här och ansvarar för stora delar av samlingarna förutom böckerna och de textila samlingarna.
Ja, stort tack för att du ville ta emot oss och ge Mitt i Schacks tittare en chans att få lära känna lite om ett spännande stycke svensk 1600-talshistoria med schackanknytning också. Till att börja med så kanske du skulle vilja berätta lite om personen Carl Gustaf Wrangel och hur det kom sig att han lät bygga det här slottet som vi befinner oss i.
Carl Gustaf Wrangels pappa hette Herman Wrangel och kom från Estland till Skokloster som han fick som gåva redan 1611. Han gifte sig med Margareta Grip som ju är en av de svenska stormannaätterna från medeltiden. Och 1613 så föddes deras första son och det är honom som vi ser på porträttet här. Och han kom att bli en av de, halvdussinet mäktigaste personerna vid 1600-talets mitt här. Med en mängd olika titlar. Han är bland annat riksamiral, han är ledare för den svenska armén och överbefälhavare från 1640-talets slut fram till Westfalska freden. Och han låter uppföra Skoklosters slott som ett stamsäte för den grevliga ätten Wrangel som han hade grundat. Han blev utnämnd av drottning Kristina till greve 1651. Så att han är riktigt på sin makts absoluta höjdpunkt på det här porträttet också.
När man tittar sig runt i det här rummet så är det ju knappast någon tvekan om att det här är Wrangels egen domän och att det tillhör en mycket rik och mäktig person. Ja, vi befinner oss ju också, som du nämnde Bengt, framför det här pampiga porträttet av slottsherren själv. Men du kanske också skulle vilja nämna lite mer om det här gemaket, vad som finns här och sedan ta oss in till grannrummet.
Ja, det här är grevens förmak och det är ett utav de rum som finns i hans våning här om totalt 9 rum. Här har man också hängt in porträtt utav både honom själv men också hustrun som vi kommer att se på porträttet här och 6 utav deras barn. Och här finns dessutom både Carl Gustaf Wrangel som ung pojke och hans enda helbror Johan Mauritz som är 1 år yngre.
Ja, det är ju mycket intressanta saker om det här rummet som vi befinner oss i nu. Men vi kanske först ska gå in i grannrummet och titta på ett skåp som påminner mycket om det som vi såg på Museum Gustavianum i Uppsala vid det förra besöket vi hade. Ja, vi befinner oss nu i kungsrummet, alltså rummet bredvid Wrangels förmak. Och vi står framför ett kabinettskåp eller konstskåp om man så vill, som har sina likheter med det vi såg på Museum Gustavianum. Men vad kan vi säga om det här skåpet, Bengt?
Det här har ju en framsida, det som är på Gustavianum till exempel har ju 4 framsidor. Det här är lite enklare, men det är tillverkat i samma ort. Alltså staden Augsburg, den fria riksstaden Augsburg. Och det kan vi se på en stadsstämpel som finns här, alltså en pinjekotte som är staden Augsburgs stadsstämpel, och sen står det EBEN inslaget, Ebenholz. Så att här är det riktiga material, det är fanerat med elfenben och ebenholz. Blindträet, alltså det man har gjort själva skåpet av, är furu och gran. Och det är tillverkat omkring 1640-45.
Så vi befinner oss i samma tidsperiod ungefär. Ja. Vad kan vi säga om de här illustrationerna vi ser på?
De är ju oerhört trevliga. Här kan vi se adliga övningar. Alltså de ämnena som en ung adelsman skulle kunna lära sig och hantera för att bli en riktig gentilhomme. Och olika typer av bollspel. Här ränner man till ring, men man har en ring hängande och sen en land som man ska träffa i full fart. Här skjuter man med armborst, skjuter till måls. Och här är det bowling, alltså ett kägelspel. Och den här lådan, fronten här, den har då ett brädspel, 2 personer som sitter där.
Ja, så där knyter vi an igen till brädspelet, ja.
På den här sidan så ser vi då hur man umgås med kvinnorna. Här hur man promenerar med armen om hennes midja och kurtiserar och flörtar, och naturligtvis ska man också dansa. Och som ni ser så är det ett bord uppdukat med mat och en harpist sitter där och spelar. Alltså för att sen resultatet av sin flört, sin kurtis med kvinnan ska resultera i detta. Alltså bildandet av familj och att föra ätten vidare. Det är ju oerhört viktigt för 1600-talsmänniskan, ättebildandet.
Ja, det var en liten parentes, men nu tror jag det är dags att vi återvänder till schack- och brädspelen i det wrangelska förmaket.
Thanks for watching our show. We'll be back again next week with more news, a new chess school, chess puzzle, and the continuation from the history section from the castle of Skövde. Don't miss it.